Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Jordan Publishing. The book's very important. We've reviewed it before and a series of books on this subject matter. The title of the book is Elderly Clients, this book over here. It's a precedent manual, now in a 5th edition, and the general editor is Caroline Bilanska. Now, as I say, we've reviewed this book before, and it's a first-class book dealing with what is an ever-growing client base for us as lawyers. This book's also available as an e-book, and there's an accompanying CD because it's a precedent manual. So there's a lot of information which you can download. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I talked about the book, and we came up with a title for our book review as follows: A Great Precedent Manual on How to Advise Older Clients as We All Live Longer Today. Now, that may appear to you to be a bit of a statement of the obvious, but the fact is that we do know how to handle elderly clients, at least some of us do, and the problem we've got at the moment is the wide range of problems which are expanding with that particular client base. Let's look at the book first, though. Here it is. It's got a nice bluish cover. There's the front. It's a hardback. You can see it's quite a heavy book. There's the spine, and then there's the back, and you've got quite a lot of detail. You can probably see some quotes and then some other information at the bottom there. It's actually written in connection with the Solicitors for the Elderly. There's a little logo on the bottom. Of course, on the back is another little logo which is dealing with the online availability of the book as an e-book. There is the CD at the back. I shouldn't say online in that sense, when I mean actually that it's available as an e-book as well as a standard paper book. Now, that's the index, and it's covered by page number, so it's easy to find. It's a reasonably suitable index, and then you've got the various information, parts of the information at the back. Let's go to the front of the book, and what you've got at the front is the main front page there, with a bit more detail. You can see there are a number of contributors. I haven't listed them in our book review, but I'll name them now. Obviously the contributors include Caroline Bilanska, Holly Melville Hawkins, Hilary Hughes, Martin Terrell, Jonathan Wilkie and Helid Wynne. Now there's the information about the detail of the book, and then there's a quote from Ecclesiasticus, chapter 33, verses 20 to 24, which is a very apt quote. There's the preface, which is well worth reading, written by Denzel Lush, and I'll refer to him in a few minutes. It's dated the 8th of March 2016. Then you've got the contents section. You can see the various chapters running through there. And then as we get progressively to the end, there we are, you've then got, in fact, right at the end, the last chapter is chapter 17. The way it's organised is you have the actual chapter covering a particular area, then you have the precedents at the end of that chapter. Then at the back you've got, it's 800 odd pages, the index is on page 801. Then you've got the table of cases, then table of statutes, then after that statutory instruments, and you've also got a very useful list of abbreviations. Again, as with much in family law and this area of law, social law, it's social welfare law, you do need to know what the abbreviations mean. Then you get into the book itself, elderly people, an introduction, starting off, the ageing of the population has enormous implications for the future structure of society, the family, the workforce and public spending. Statements of the obvious, but you can see what we're talking about. We're talking specifically initially about the population structure. You've got footnotes which go with the actual detail of the book, and you see the sort of information you've got. You've got a lot of subheadings in this particular chapter, and then we move on to additional chapters. We look here, for instance, at this chapter, which is on capacity. Now, you'll notice that there is no paragraph numbering in this book. So what you have got is you have got the footnotes, and they're very detailed, but there's no paragraph numbering. And in many ways, that's a slightly different approach from many of the books that we have. So there's 800 pages worth on elderly clients, and it's a really first-class book. And as I've said before, if you do have elderly clients, most of the law relating to various aspects of what they're doing and what is going to happen is covered by this work. So what do we say about the book? Well, we say we're privileged that Denzil Lush, who's now retired, began this tremendously helpful work some 20 years ago now, when he wrote the first edition single-handedly. And the excellent Caroline Balanska has now undertaken the editorship with the 5 fellow contributors. I'll mention them again because they put a lot of effort in. Holly Mielville Hawkins, Hilary Hughes, Martin Terrell, Jonathan Wilkie and Heled Wynne. Thank you to all of them. Now, as Lush points out, there's been a fundamental and recent change in the attitudes concerning the work of the Court of Protection since the appearance of the first edition. There's also been a lot of criticism about secret courts, a lot of press publicity and press interest. The media feel they're excluded in a lot of these cases, and so the issue is going to be surfacing again. But of course there have been a lot of changing attitudes because we have an ageing population. Lush mentions that he used to get teased by his partners for doing Court of Protection work, quote, because they thought the subject matter was more appropriate for articled clerks or managing clerks in a relatively quiet backwater. Now, well, that's a matter for them, but the fact of the matter is that it's grown very significantly in its importance and its priority. Of course, the reason for the change of attitude and approach is now all too apparent as well, because the figures Lush gives paint the picture of the new landscape we have in terms of population. In 1996 there were 8,921 applications to the court to register enduring powers of attorney, the EPAs. By the financial year 2014-15, the Office of the Public Guardian received some 16,000 applications to register EPAs, and however, as Lush remarks, that was small beer compared with the 395,000 applications which the OPG received to register lasting powers of attorney, the LPAs, which of course are of very fundamental importance. And of course the figures are growing because it's anticipated that by 2015 to 16, when we get the figures, recording this in the late summer of 16, we say that the numbers of LPA applications will exceed the 500,000 mark. No doubt about that, bearing in mind what is happening in terms of the numbers game, specifically with people who are having difficulties at whatever level as they get older. Now, the stark truth then is that we are living longer, so it is most timely that the new edition of the Precedent Manual for elderly clients is published, and we welcome the new 5th edition. There are also words of thanks to be given to Jordan for the publication to go with this of the Elder Law Journal, which was launched in 2011, which is a major source of information for practitioners and advisors to go with this work. And in addition, for those who are unaware, the organisation Solicitors for the Elderly, the SFE, now has over 1,500 members, and they're rightly thanked by Lush for continuing to support his book, which he started. Of course, they're mentioned with their little logo there. Let me continue by saying the title begins with its most important introduction, as I said before. The ageing of the population has enormous implications for the future structure of society, the family, the workforce and public spending. Absolutely fundamental statement, and the contributors explain the population structure in detail. It was popular some 50 years ago to give grim warnings of the population explosion, and we now have the results of some of those predictions today, which is why we believe this book is of such significance. And of course, many of us now will have some sort of coverage concerning elderly clients with the work that we get. So I do think it's a subject area that everybody should have at least some working knowledge of. Let me conclude by saying these points. The final word is probably best left with Denzil Lush, who says in a rather touching comment, quote, "Growing old is characterised by a gradual diminution in the range of activities at which one was previously competent and an increasing need to invoke the assistance of others." Well, we all feel that, I can tell you. The fact is that it's not because of the any other reason other than we are getting old. It actually also got a much more complex society, and it always is the case that you need another pair of eyeballs to look at what you're doing. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It does help if you do that, because you then will probably arrive at a much better conclusion having talked it through. But of course what he's saying as well is that, as we get older, we do need to have a bit of support. And let me say these are wise words, but not just for this highly practical book and its continued success, but for all of us as the years pass, for we understand, as do the authors, of the rapidly growing interest in this area of law, which will not diminish in the years to come. So thank you to everybody involved in the production of the new edition, which I think is a worthy book to have in your firm or chamber's library. And the date of publication is 2016, round about sort of May time. Let's have a look at it again. There it is, there's the front page, it's a hardback. There's the spine. It's a heavy book, actually, this one. Nice paper. They've put it on very nice paper. Opening it in a minute. Ordinary powers of attorney. Just right in the middle, chapter 8, ordinary powers of attorney. You see, it's a narrative right at the beginning with an introduction, setting out the, here, section 4 of the Powers of Attorney Act, 1971. Then you've got a little bit of footnoting at the bottom, which you can just see there. And then you can just run it through, and you can see the sort of detail that you've got. Everything you need should be here, and in fact you've got a very large amount of additional information. I would remind you again that there is the CD at the back. So thank you very much to everybody who's been involved in this. I've said it about Jordan's and I'll say it again. Without this sort of work, the amount of effort that's put into it, it would make our lives a great deal more difficult at whatever level within the legal profession. So we do in fact say a big word of thanks to Jordan's for continuing through LexisNexis to publish these substantive works. They make our lives a lot easier. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.